Alrighty, well, I'll start. So if you can't tell, this is going to be a very serious session. But the idea behind this is to give you help and support and ideas on how you can use the assets that we provide and all the things we provide to students for free to like help push your rapid prototypes forward faster, to help you iterate quicker. And that's my disclaimer is that like, because this is a session about rapid prototyping, we are not going to build like the next immersive, amazing 3D experience. I felt it would be really disingenuous if I spent like 4 weeks building this wild prototype and then trying to be like, yeah, you can do this in an hour. So I basically set up really basic game systems and had the code ready. And then everything else we're just going to kind of throw together and talk about and play with some of the tools. Using Unity 6 because why not? My other disclaimer, this is the preview version of Unity 6, so everything should be stable and good, but if it crashes while doing a live demo, that happens sometimes. Okay, so if you don't know me, hi, I'm Tom or Thomas. I work here at Unity as a technical marketing advocate, and my focus is education. Some background on me, I'm a Unity programmer. I've been doing gameplay programming for 7-ish years, all in Unity. Really have always worked with the Unity education team in some capacity. I was writing curriculum, teaching on, doing like live webinars for them, teaching like create with code and things like that during lockdown. And then after that moved out, I jumped into like the Twitch community and joined the advocacy group where we're traveling and doing workshops. But my focus, my specialization, everything I care about is universities, high schools, nonprofits. Customers are super cool too. Game studios are really cool too, but I don't worry about those. So, fun facts about me. My favorite game genre is fighting games. If you go back and watch the live stream from Unite, I actually got beat by my boss in the Power Rangers fighting game about an hour and a half ago. And he's not going to let me live it down for the rest of my career. Favorite food is pizza. Like I cook pizza. Whenever I travel, I find whatever the local pizza is. The best pizza I've ever eaten is actually in Detroit. It's really good. It's like a thick breaded crust with like tons of grease. Oh, it's wonderful. It's a very American pizza. I will warn you of that. Yeah, and then just quick career stuff because it's always fun to share this with y'all. Because I think like how many? All right, let's do some year counting. How many are like first year students? Okay, second year. Okay, third year, fourth year. Just about out of here. All right, cool. So. One thing I always like to share when I ever do presentations like this is like my career path because it's kind of weird. So when I finished, I went to school for audio engineering. Actually, I was going to be a musician. I was going to tour. Got an opportunity to take an internship at a major record label, but they weren't going to pay me. And at that time, I had a full-time job selling iPhones. I was making way more money than a kid at 22 should make. And it didn't make sense to move my life to New York City and not get paid. So I stayed in that. So I actually worked in sales for 12 years. I sold iPhones, video games, business internet. But the whole time I was doing that behind the scenes, I was recording music, recording podcasts, making videos with people. And what that led to was I became like a project/program manager at a tech startup where we were teaching people how to make video games or how to do technology in general. So we were teaching Java, React, Node. And then I got put on the creative team. So we were teaching Maya, 3ds Max, Blender, ZBrush, Unity, Unreal, everything. And I was teaching developers how to make videos and how to record their voices in ways that actually sound good. And so that when people would listen to the videos, it would be high quality content. And what that led to is I listened to thousands of hours of videos about how to make video games. And because of that, I started realizing that like, oh, I understand Unity and I really like C#. So I started playing with it. I actually took over the Unity program at that company for a while. And then because of that, working with Unity and directly with Unity as a company, I started making projects for them, videos for them, trainings for them, and then they just kind of pulled me in, and now here I am doing this. So I share that to say that like, whatever you're doing now, no matter what it is, even if it's not your most favorite thing in the world, you're learning something really cool, and try to like distill that down. So like sales is an example, right? Confrontation does not make me uncomfortable anymore. I'm just very comfortable because I had to deal with it for 12 years of people not really wanting to talk to me. And I had to talk to them anyway, because if I wanted to pay my bills, we needed to have a conversation, right? Because of that, I now go to conferences like this and I can go to a big noisy party and just find some friends at a table and have a conversation and make new friends and start networking, right? Which in gaming is huge. The audio production side of the house, when they said, hey, come teach Create with Code on Zoom, I was the best sounding instructor on Zoom because I knew how microphones worked. And because I had all this extra time at home, I made sure that my PC setup was very nice and sounded really well, right? So if you're doing stuff like, and you're not enjoying it, sometimes it's helpful to think about like, what am I learning by doing this? Because in the end, like when we're all looking at our careers, we're all kind of like an amalgamation of skills and stuff we know how to do. And that stuff turns into like whatever it is you may be doing down the road. So anyway, hopefully that's inspirational. Just a little bit of information about me and why I do this. So this is kind of our team's mission. We've changed it a lot, but it really boils down to the fact that like students are the future and we want you to have every tool possible. That's kind of the North Star of everything our team does. We want you to be able to learn, create, grow, do cool stuff, and, you know, also give us feedback and support. Usually I accredit this to like a fake American president, but really like that's the goal of our team, right? It's all about how do we support the community, and you all are a part of that community. And when we think about students, we really think about you not just as part of like the education community, but it's like, okay, they're going to school for game dev, therefore they are game developers. So how do we support them like game developers? Like what do they need to succeed? And in order to build that, this is the student plan. This is a work in progress. It's always growing. It's always building. There's a big QR code I'm going to encourage you to scan later, but basically we give you access to the Unity editor, right? You can already get that. You go to unity.com, you hit download. However, it comes with more stuff as well. So new to this, about like a year ago, we launched a 20% stackable asset store discount code. So what that means is you just get a code that you save, and anytime you buy any asset on the asset store, even if it's already on sale, you throw that code and you get another 20% off. And the thought behind that was like, if you need an asset and you're willing to spend some money on it, we should make it as cheap as possible. And we also, again, want to give you access to resources. And this is a good way to do that, partnering. The next thing is the Odin suite. Has anybody used Odin before from Cyrenix? Yeah, come on. Okay. So great tool, one of our top assets. It really helps your development journey. We're going to use it a little bit in this prototyping tool, but they have custom editor changes, things that make your inspector look different. They can do like validation checks. So like if you have a null reference, it'll find that, things like that for you. And then the other thing is the free Cinti Studios asset bundle. And this is $80 worth of 3D assets and textures and materials and environment pieces, all from Cinti, that you can just use in your projects to build stuff. There's characters, environment art, prototyping pieces, buildings, plants, trees, mountains. And again, it's because from my perspective, gray boxing is kind of fun, but building prototypes with like actual art is also really fun. And like, at least for me in my day job, I'm a team of, for these demos, I'm generally a team of one, right? Like we have a brand studio, we have a team, but that team is also building stuff like that incredible demo you saw today with that insanely realistic human running up the mountain. So they don't always have time to make me like a zombie, right? So this is another really useful way that you can jump in and prototype. So this is a giant QR code. And if you scan that, it'll take you to the page and you can get your license. All you need to do is use your student email address for your school. If for some reason your school doesn't come up, you can submit a student ID and they'll validate it. You can also reach out to us and say, hey, my school wasn't listed, and we'll reach out to our validator and we'll get your school added. They generally cover everybody in the globe, but we have found instances where like a school didn't make it into their database or whatever. So cool. And by doing this, now I can go back to my marketing partner and say, hey, I got like 30 people to look at this and my job is done. Yes. Cool. All right. Now we can build stuff. So let me pull the editor up really quick and I should have it ready. Okay, cool. So the premise for this prototype game, and hopefully this is visible, we'll try to zoom it and stuff for everybody, is I have decided that this is our friend Karen. And Karen is an inventor back home, and Karen invented the Punch-O-Matic 5000, which is a rifle that shoots boxing gloves to punch people that are attacking you, because she thinks killing people is bad, but knocking them out is funny. And for some reason, she gets transported to a fantasy world where she's being attacked by knights. That was the idea for the game. And so right now, we have a really basic game loop happening. So if I hit play, and nothing changed in this project in the last 5 hours. This is the scariest part of a live demo, by the way, is when you hit the play button for the first time. Okay. So the UI scaling is fine. It's just because I have the stretching weird. But if we run away, the capsules are coming. If I hit spacebar, I shoot my not yet punching gloves. The monsters go away. And then if Karen gets hit, she loses a little bit of health. And then eventually game over happens and the game resets. So really super basic game loop, just monsters running at us and us trying to survive, them swarming. As you can tell, the pathfinding algorithm is really advanced because they're all running at the same direction. It's basically just like looking for her agent and setting it as a destination, and then every 2 seconds it retargets. So it's really basic stuff, but it works well for like a prototype. So as I see this right now, like it's fun, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't really add like juice or excitement, right? Like, first of all, that flat brown color with a top down view, it's really hard to tell that she's actually moving. Like, it doesn't look like she's moving anywhere because there's no environment pieces moving around. So that's something I think we can fix pretty quickly. And so playing with, why do I have so many inspectors? Oh, it's because I've got the 4-box. Here we go. Okay. So the first thing I built out is I made this little prefab in the environment just called Bridge and Water. And this is a whole bunch. Let's actually jump into the prefab view if it'll let me. Yeah. So this is built from a bunch of the environment assets from the Knights pack with Cinti. But I've got this nice like snowy riverbed it came with. And then it comes with these nice plates that you can use for water. And they're just blue textured planes. But, you know, they make a nice like fake water bed. And it kind of looks like that. And then this bridge, which I just think is neat. I'm a fan of bridges. And this also works really, really well for prototyping the game because right now on a big square, when you're just running and all the monsters are swarming, you kind of get this weird like monster warbling effect. So this also like breaks the game up a bit where like you can run across the bridge to get some safety. And one of the mechanics I didn't show you is when she reloads, she has to stop. So then you can be attacked and swarmed. So I figured I'd build something to break the scene up a bit. So, you know, this is... Unfortunately, it would take a really long time. I figured you didn't want to watch me drag and drop 3D assets and mesh them together. But this is, you know, like 20 little set pieces here, just made into a little prefab. And then when we snap it in, it goes right here. The other thing we're using, has anybody used Unity as nav mesh before? If you use navigation with nav mesh? Okay, some hands up. Cool. So we are using a nav mesh. That's why you see this blue texturing kind of around here. That's the nav mesh bake. And then you'll notice when there's brown dropped in here, it's because all of these are set as a nav mesh obstacle. So they automatically just block out the nav mesh. But we do need to rebake our nav mesh because you'll notice you can't walk over the bridge right now. So I can just jump to my ground piece where I have my nav mesh here. And we'll just rebake it really fast. And then it should give us a little path over. So already, and you know, granted, I think putting that prefab together took me like 20 minutes. But, you know, 3 minutes with this prefab pre-configured. Now we have something a little more exciting. And it looks a little bit more noticeable. We can also like start messing with, oh no, they got through the snow somehow. But now if I have to like run over here and hide to reload, it's my reload animation. Oh no, run. So again, a little more interesting, right? It's not life-changing, but gives us a little more, like something a little more diverse to look at, a little more exciting. So that's like the first thing of why I recommend these assets. And there's a ton of these. I know I'm only showing you a subset, but if I pop this project window up and like let it free float, or just pop it into a terrible position. Why would I do that? There we go. We can look at the Cinti stuff. Come on. So we look at Cinti Studios. So we've got Knights, City. So we can go into like the adventure and just jump into prefabs. And you've got buildings, environment, effects, items, props, weapons. There's a ton of stuff here. So we can actually jump into the environment here. And we can just start throwing some trees in. So I'm going to be very nonchalant about this. We'll just like slap trees all over this place. I don't know what this is, but it looks cool. So we're going to use one of those. One of these. Just kind of prototype a few things. You know, this is like a rock with snow. Ooh, that's a bit. I like that. So we'll do that. We can kind of jump through some of these prefabs and start tidying things up. Oh, this is where the mountains live. Okay. I'm also going to throw some of these little ice blocks. And then let's make sure Y is a 0. All right, cool. So we'll kind of pile these buds up here like that. And then just for fun, I'm going to put a mountain like outside the level. Just so when we walk by, we're like excited. So the other part of that is now we have these prefabs in there, but they are, oh, this is the cloud. Not anymore. Now it's a snow rock. All right, cool. And then what we can do to make this like actually affect navigation of enemies, right? We can just add a nav mesh obstacle. And by doing that, it's going to put this nice little like kind of hard to see green block around it. But if we want to see what it's doing, I can actually just turn carve on. And now we can see this is actually carving out our nav mesh, right? So we can't move through this. And then the nice thing about carve is if for some reason this not cloud, snow rock, was moving, it will actually move and modify the nav mesh in real time for us so that it's going to block navigation, which is really cool. I'm going to turn carve off because it's just like hanging out. And then I think I need a nav mesh obstacle here. And then using prefabs and being lazy, I'm just gonna hit I'm gonna apply this to all the prefabs. That way any version of this I use is gonna have the obstacle. Let's make sure this one's got one. Okay, cool. And this giant rock. I think it would look very strange if we could walk through the giant rock. So we're gonna get rid of that too. All right. And then one thing I definitely wanted to do is make like some nice alleyways to get our enemies stuck on. Oh, I didn't add a nav mesh obstacle here. But overrides, apply all. Okay, cool. So let's just grab this and we'll just spread this out. Just, make some fun art stuff. All right, let's see if this looks any better, any more exciting. We'll find out soon. Cool. All right. So now we've got some ground stuff. It looks better when we run. We've got like rocks we can hide behind. Oh no. This game is not one-handed ready. I need to change some of the controls, I think. But we have something kind of happening here. And then all the monsters can swarm us. Yeah. Sweet. Okay, so a couple of minutes, according to my timer that just turned itself off. 15 minutes, and we have something a little more interesting, a little more exciting. So the next thing we'd probably want to do is actually change the enemies out. So I'm going to let you look behind the curtain here. I did download some animations from Mixamo in advance of this, just because I wanted to have some quick, easy animations. And we don't yet have an animation pack we provide to students yet, which saying that out loud makes me think maybe we should. So I just grabbed a quick animation from Mixamo. Let's hide this console a little bit if we can. Okay. So we'll jump into our animations folder. You'll notice that our hero is already kind of animated. They're all also Mixamo animations. But I'm just going to grab the one I downloaded very fast. In my desktop. So I just have this walking animation. And we have to do a couple of changes to this to make it work with our tool, right? So you can't just... You have to make sure there's like an avatar and a rig and everything like that. And the nice thing about using something like a Mixamo, I uploaded the model, it rigged it, shot it down with an avatar. And so now I can just point these animations at it to use it. So the first thing we'll do is go to the rig on the import. It's set to generic. It needs to be humanoid. And we're not going to create a new avatar from this model, but instead we'll point it at another avatar. And I can point it at the character's Polygon Knight's avatar because I know that's the avatar that I'm going to use to make animation happen. And then it's a standard 4 bones. We'll hit apply. There are warnings, but I checked, it's okay. And then if we go look at the animation, the last thing I want to make sure we do is I want it to loop because this is a walk cycle, right? So we don't want to just like take one step and scoot. We want to keep looping over and over again. And I'm also going to rename this from mixamo.com to enemy walk so I know what it is. And we'll apply all those changes. So theoretically, if I've done everything right, the animation should work. The last thing we'll need is a controller that will run this. So I'll just right click, go to create, make an animator controller, and we'll call this enemy. And then when we pop this open with a double click, doing this on one screen is more challenging than I anticipated. Then we'll just drag the enemy walk in. And then since this is the default state, as soon as the character spawns, he'll start walking, and then it should just stick on that state over and over again, right? Okay, done. Close that. Now let's pick our knight, shall we? Cinti Studios, Polygon Knights, prefabs, characters. We're using fixed scale, and these are our different characters. Now, this is one of my favorite things about the way the Cinti packs their assets, is there's actually like 5 to 10 options all packed into one prefab. And all the meshes are set up so they work with the same rigs, they work with the same texture sets and everything. So you can start getting really quick diversity without having to do a ton of work. So we'll just drag this first one into the scene. And then I'll shrink all this back down again. Thank you for bearing with me with my screen management. And so this is our first knight. But, where's my hierarchy? But if we go look at this knight and we unfurl here, you'll see there's actually 5 other meshes stuck inside here. So we could turn on the second mesh. And now we have like a different costume essentially, right? We're just flipping skins, but it gives more depth and diversity to the game. And instead of having one enemy coming, we can have, 5 or 6 if we find a way to randomize this, either through random spawning or through, I just wrote like a little script that randomly picks a mesh and turns it off and on. And that way it'll just, every time it spawns, it just changes what it looks like. So we have this character here. There's a couple things an enemy does need. So first of all, we need to tell it the animator controller. So we need to give it its enemy animator. And then enemies have their enemy navigation script, which tells them add to nav mesh agent and then basically tells how often they retarget the player. And then I also made a little attack script because if enemies can't attack, they're not really that scary. And we'll say they can only attack once every 2 seconds. I was finding this crazy bug where basically they were all crashing into the player and then attacking her 4,000 times and firing off the restart coroutine a whole bunch. So that was a problem. And then the only other thing that we need to do here is make sure that there is a capsule collider on here, set as a trigger, and we're going to make it ridiculously tall. And this is kind of a cheat I'm setting up because we're doing a top-down shooter, and so like the height of the projectile might change a little bit, so I'm just making the trigger really, really high, so as long as it crosses through that volume, it'll look like it collided and work. Okay. Oh, and I have to make sure it's tagged as an enemy. Hold on. Enemy. Okay. So now we've got our new enemy set up, and the reason I'm doing this the slow way because I want you just to like see the phases and steps and how we set things up. When we change the projectile, I'm going to show you a really obvious trick that you probably already know that blew my mind like a year ago that I had never thought about. Because it's always the easy stuff that like for some reason gets me. So we've got our character knight here. I am going to rename this also to main enemy. And inside my folder, we'll remake a prefab. All right. I need you to be docked over here. And we'll just drag the main enemy into the prefabs folder and make it original. Okay, cool. We're going to test this whole thing live. So in my spawn manager, this is the enemy we're spawning. So we'll just drag our main enemy in there instead of the prototype. And let's see what happens. Play maximized, please. This is either going to go really great or really terribly. All right, I'll take that as great. So now we have the same knight marching at us and attacking us. Which is great, but I think we could stand to have like a little more excitement in our night world. So all we need to do to really like make this more, in my mind, exciting is to jump in and add this one script. And I think it's called, what do I call it? Activate. No, see, it's called random. Select random mesh. Okay, perfect. So all this is doing is finding all the meshes that are children of it. And then I know the bottom one is the root, so it's ignoring the bottom one and just turning on a random one. So it's, for the C# folk in the room, it's like 5 lines of code. It's really basic. But because we do something like that now, we just have different knights marching at us. Got some knights with like white sashes. There's one with like a dome hat. That's my favorite one. That weird, like, in America, we'd say like a cowboy hat, but it's like metal. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Cool. So already just like a little more interesting and a little more exciting. Something else I thought about while we were chatting is that there's really great prototype pieces that you can use inside Cinti. So if we jump to assets, all right, you know what, Inspector, you're getting docked. Okay. If we go to our assets here, we can actually jump into Cinti again, and they have a really good prototyping area. Let's see, Polygon Adventure, City, Knights, Prototype. And in their materials, I'm going to show you a trick that I learned earlier. So their assets by default are not set up for the universal render pipeline. They're set up for the built-in render pipeline, but they include a scene that you double click that will import the correct shaders to update everything for you, which is really nice. So hoping I could find it. Is it miscellaneous? Oh, right here. So URP extract me. So if I double click this, you'll see that I have all of this global grid materials and they're all converted and ready. And they've also got their shaders converted to shader graph to make sure they work with URP. So if you notice you're having issues with some of your Cinti assets, look for that file, and it'll just update your shaders for you, which is super, like, just great of them to include a helper file like that. But I'm going to use the materials because there's a really good prototype material. You know, let's do green. Oh, I'm in the game view. Hold on. Bloop. Let's accept the green on there. So now we've got like a green prototype, but it's got a grid as well, which is going to show off our movement like a little bit better. How much time do I have? Okay, cool. Everything so far is going according to plan. Okay, cool. So moving, good, alive. Next thing is our projectiles are just spheres, and that's not very fun. I do really like this reload animation. No, reload. I think it would be really fun, though, if a boxing glove came out of her pocket and she put it in the gun. I'm going to have to add that later. Okay, so this is our prefab, and I'm going to show you, like, a thing I saw, I think it was my boss do, and I just never considered how much easier it is to do things this way. So if we jump into the prefab editor, bloop, and then try to give you all more room, single scene moving is great. Okay, so this is our prefab. It's just basically, let's go to the inspector view. Okay, great. I'm going to dock the hierarchy over here just so we have more inspector. So it's basically just a sphere with some scripts to make it fire forward and then explode if it hits something, right? But we want boxing gloves. So I know, because I have researched, that there's actually a boxing glove asset in here. So we can search for that really quick. And you see there's the 2D one for the UI, but there's actually this nice little buddy here. So we can drag this in, and I'm going to make this a child of our projectile. Now, a couple things are going to go wrong here. Notice how much smaller the boxing glove is than the projectile. When I turn off the sphere, you'll notice. But our sphere is also shrunk down to like a way smaller size. So I'm going to put it back to like a normal size. And that's actually going to make the boxing glove fit exactly how I want it. So back here. And then in the inspector of the projectile, I'm just going to turn off the mesh renderer. And so we've already kind of like substituted what we have and our components are there. And then all we need to do is fix that collider so that it's, you know, surrounding the boxing glove. And we're pretty much ready from there. So Z is 15. This is on the x-axis. So I think Z needs to be 0. And I think X needs to be 0.15 if I remember right. Yeah, perfect. Cool. So just like that in the prefab context, we literally added the thing we needed, disabled the mesh renderer, and our projectile is already going to look better. So a nice fast way to do it. And the thing that blew my mind was the just, oh, make it a child and disable the mesh renderer. Like in 7 years, I had just never thought of that. It's like, oh, right. Like you can turn components off in Unity. It's always been there. Also, I'm going to get this enemy out of there so there's not too many on screen. But now, let's see if we can get to a better place here. All right, so the enemies are spawning. We're shooting boxing gloves. Ooh, the boxing glove is shooting the wrong way. We can fix that really quick. Oh, we gotta. Oh, I should not have reloaded right there. Get out. Did anybody ever play like Smash TV on the NES or any of the top-down shooters? Okay. I think you and I played a lot of this in video games growing up. Yeah, it's like, that was kind of the inspiration. But now we have like a more interesting, kind of exciting style game. And I think like the artist and environment artists in the room are probably like, you could do a lot more with this environment, and you were right. But we have an hour, and I still need to show you Odin. So at least now, though, we have the projectiles we want, we have the character we want, we have randomized enemies, and we have some like foliage and rocks and bridges in the scene, so it's a little more exciting and fun. So that when we're doing playtesting, you know, we're having fun for a lot of things. So let's fix our prefab really fast. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see, where's my projectile? Cool. So I believe, which direction do I need to rotate you on, buddy?
There in the seat itself.
Say what? Oh, yeah. Oh, my rotate tool. Oh, yeah. What I was going to show you is if I turn back on my, if I go back to my hierarchy, I need to figure out which way is forward. I'm trying to remember how I set that. If I turn this on right here, though, there we go. So I want to move on the Z axis. And then if I turn this mesh renderer back off, you'll see that like right now it's moving horizontally. So we just need to rotate this piece of the prefab basically is all we have to do. So hierarchy, grab this. And if I rotate it on the Y, okay, cool. Minus 90 it is. And let's just do a really fast test. It looks like everything is working as anticipated. We definitely need like an attack animation and a death animation to come through here. I also feel like we need more particles. And it needs sound. But, okay. So, hopefully that kind of shows you like what you can do with like assets, how you can replace things fast, and kind of build out more of an exciting environment. Something I did do that I wanted to show live, but I didn't want to tinker with lighting too much in case I fired off a lighting bake in the middle of a demonstration. But like I did throw in like a free skybox as well, just to add some like scary vibes. I always like red skyboxes. They're fun. Okay. So that is pretty much using the Cinti assets, kind of setting things up. And then if I wanted to go out and buy any more assets, like I said, you can jump into the asset store with that 20% off coupon, find some things. I'm not sure if you all do the Humble Bundle thing, but I do that as well. I just stock one assets from the Humble Bundle in case I want to make something. But we have like a start to kind of a prototype and something we can build. So now let's play with some of the stuff that Odin does. So Odin is really, really great. And I'm actually going to show you the first thing I love about Odin. So if you see right here on the bottom left, let me move my toolbar. You see this little check mark? That's Odin Validator. So that's actually looking at all of my objects in my hierarchy and like making sure that like if there's an object reference that's supposed to exist, that's actually assigned. And it's checking my prefabs to make sure things are connected correctly and that like I'm doing stuff so that if I'm changing my prototype and something weird happens, Odin will actually throw an error when it revalidates. So as an example, I'm going to go back to my hierarchy real fast and we'll go to our spawn manager. And the spawn manager, we have an enemy assigned, right? So I'm actually going to assign the prototype enemy again. Is it enemy proto, what I called it? Yeah. So I'm going to assign the enemy prototype. But then I'm so proud of myself for how well I built the knight. I'm going to delete my enemy prototype out of celebration. So we'll do that. We'll save it. And we'll run the validator really quick. So Odin Validator is now going, hey man, wait a minute. Like that prefab is now gone. So it's actually giving me that error and telling me where it is. So I'm not digging through components trying to figure it out, right? Like granted, if you've troubleshot a no reference exception, you're pretty quick at it anyway, but this gives you that extra step. And then I'm like, oh, I need to fix this. So I can just double click on this and go to the fix and it tells me where it's located. So sample scene here is gone missing from spawn manager. Here's your spawn manager object. So all I have to do now is go look at my spawn manager and I'll very quickly see that like, oh yeah, here it is. It even does a little highlight and bump for me. Jump on it, pop up the inspector, and there's my warning that I saw before that reinforces, hey, you're missing your piece. And then I can reattract my my missing game object right here. Search for the enemy. Hey, where's my enemy? Main enemy? Oh, it's because I'm looking at the scene, not in the assets. Come on, Tom. All right. So doing that, notice the check mark immediately switched back. It's like, okay, you fixed it. You're good. All of your stuff is validated, and now your project will actually run and work. So that's like one of the first things about Odin I really like is the validator. Something we won't have time to dive into, but if you ever want to get really nerdy with it, you can actually set up custom validation rules according to your project. You can set up custom validation passes, what it checks for, what it doesn't check for, stuff you're concerned about, stuff you're not. It also has like an auto configuration wizard, which is what I went through to set this up. I literally dragged the assets in, said, I want this, turn on validator. It did it, and here we are. So with the student plan, you don't get it through the package manager. If you purchase it through the asset store, it comes through the package manager. With the student plan, you actually get an email with a private link that takes you to a page to download the package. And then it's just like a Unity asset pack. You just drag and drop it in and then hit import and you're done. So that's part one. Something we should definitely show off as well. If we go to Tools, Odin, and we go to Getting Started, it pulls up this nice script, this nice window here. And here's how you can kind of configure everything you're thinking about. So I've enabled serializer, I've enabled the validator, and I installed the validator, and I've installed the inspector. And so you can kind of go through and change like how things are. They also have a full tutorials link right up here. So if you want to learn how to do different things, it'll take you right to the Odin inspector documentation, which we are going to be using a little bit today. And you can dive in and kind of play with the different stuff. But actually, I'm going to be looking at their attributes page mainly because their attributes are what I think are really special. So this portion is going to be focused at kind of the software devs in the room, but we're going to jump in and show how you can use Odin attributes to kind of customize your inspector a little bit and make things more flashy, more interactive. And it's really nice because you can organize things in your inspector, but then also one of the big things of being like a gameplay developer, like a tools developer is you want to make sure that you focus on building stuff that folks that aren't wanting to access code can still manipulate and change and edit, right? Like it's really important to be like, hey, I'm going to build this character controller and there's a run speed, but I'm not going to tell you what the run speed should be, right? The designer should be figuring that out. And so you want to give them room to play with. And so Odin kind of allows you to do that. So the first thing that I thought would be really fun is if we could edit our main enemy prefab right inside of the spawn manager. So instead of having to dig through to find it, we could just edit it. Full disclosure, this is the part that scares me because we're changing code. Let's see if anything breaks. So I'm just going to pop open my spawn manager and it's going to load up. I'm going to close the output, or at least drop the output down. We don't need to see this, buddy. Come on. There we go. Okay. So super basic things, but we can actually set up Odin. So we're going to use using, oh my gosh, Odin inspector, and that'll give us access to all the attributes. And the thing is, I want to look at is this spawnable game object, right? This is what we're spawning. And right now I just have this serialized field attribute, which is just telling Unity like show the field in the editor so we can drag stuff in. So now I can start using Odin attributes. So I want to use, is it inline editor? Yeah, inline editor. And we'll say inline editor mode dot full editor. So we want whatever field is assigned here to be fully editable from the script it's referenced in. Here's the part that every once in a while my input actions crash. So hopefully, crash. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, notice my spawnable has a little unfurl arrow. So now I can go in and start changing the tag, and I can change the default layer. I can also change the spawn gap value and the max enemies value. Here, I can change if it's static. So it's giving me access to like the top priority of the main enemy stuff. So if I want to like adjust it or mess with it. And this is kind of a light demo of it, but there's a much more powerful demo we can give you of, is it my projectile script? Let's go look here. I think it's projectile. I think the projectile, yeah. So then what if we've got like a destroy effect and we just want to make like micro adjustments to the particle effect without like diving into the prefab mode? So we can do that same thing here and do inline editor. Oh, you know why it's not showing up? Got my using statement. Odin inspector. And then from here we can say inline editor. And we'll do inline editor mode. Let's do small preview because I haven't seen small preview yet. Okay, so again, we just add this attribute. So from a developer perspective, one quick line of code. Yeah, cool. Everything's working. This is great. All right, so then if we go to our hero and we jump to our inspector here, actually, no, this is gonna be on our projectile prefab. What am I doing? Prefabs. Let's go to our projectile. Hierarchy, projectile, bloop, bloop. So if we go look here, now we have our projectile script and we have a destroy effect. And destroy effect is just giving us like this small preview, which I don't like. Like it's not giving me any, like there's no point to having this, right? So instead, it would be much more powerful if we said, hey, no, I want full editor. Let it recompile. Cool. So now I can actually just right here, this is my full particle system right here that I can edit inside of my projectile script. So because the projectile has a particle, I can now just jump in, and if I want to change the destroy effect right here, like as an example, let's make that start speed bigger. Let's make it a 5. So that is saved and set. Oh yeah, America must be waking up. My Discord notifications are going off. Okay, now we'll go back here, and that change is already done and moved through. So I've already gone through, moved it, edited it, changed it, and I can move my development process forward faster. And let's see if the destroy effect actually works. Cool. So there's a ton of Odin things you can look at. There's asset lists, folder paths, child game objects only. Color palette is a really fun one too, where you can actually have like visible color palettes set up and they're customized and looking a lot different. And the cool thing about their documentation is they're just going to give you what it is and the type of thing it comes along to, right? So if you set up a color called color options and define it as a color palette, we would have color options immediately. And so it's really, really easy to define and set up. So we can jump right in. You know what? I feel like we need a color palette on our projectile. That'll be fun. We'll do public color. We'll just steal their code. Okay, do that. Jump over. I know you're reloading. Where are you? There we are. And then same idea. If we go back and look at our projectile, now we're going to have a color palette that we can play with. Just right here. And the cool thing is their color palette comes with a bunch of different types of color composition. So like this is country, so like very country flags. Then we could also jump in and do like an underwater theme, and you can actually build your own color palette themes that you import, and then you have that as a selector that you're providing to artists, right? So you could define your color theme, use this, and your developers don't need to know, like I don't need to know what the color palette is, which is good because I am terrible at color theory. However, I know if I just put the color palette attribute on their color picker, they get access to everything they need and they can assign it. And then as a developer, all I'm doing with that color value inside the code is choosing where that gets assigned, right? Whether it's changing the material color, maybe the boxing glove color, the star color, whatever. As an example, I guess we could do like an on enable thing where we grab access to like the mesh renderer and change the color of the material. Any of that would work. So how much time do we have? Yeah, I'm not going to write that code live. You don't want to go through that. But again, lots more customization, lots more options. And this is, you know, like full disclosure, after 20 minutes of research into Odin, looking at the documentation, right? So this is really deep, really powerful stuff that a lot of studios are using. And it's all of like, will this make your pipeline better? If so, cool, use it, right? Dive in, tackle it, use it. Okay, where are we at on time? It is 5:12. I think the best use of our time, instead of watching me just fiddle around inside the editor, would be we could just have like some conversations, some Q&A, or if there's like other stuff you were hoping to do, you can go do that too, if that works for you all. That's cool. Yeah, I see a question here. Go for it. I think we need to carry a mic to you so that it's recorded, right? Cool. And it should be on already.
Hello? Hello?
This one works, right? Yes.
Once I graduate,
Yep.
is Odin a subscription?
Ooh, great question. So Odin is free for students. It is free for non-commercial use, right? So if you're going to use it like in full production projects, you do need to pay for it. It's not a subscription. It's a one-time purchase at the individual level. I have no idea what the pricing is. It is on sale regularly, and your student coupon would apply.
So you
Yep.
can use it until you publish it.
Yeah, until you're trying to like actually monetize the game and make money off of it. Yep. And then in that case, you need to move to their commercial version, which I think is like, I want to say it's like $100 or 80 US dollars. Like it's not incredibly expensive.
Another thing about Odin that I want to know, because I know that like some of the stuff that you showed are like better looking, quote unquote,
Sure. Yeah.
version of what Unity already gives. Like the console responses already, you can sort of decode what the console
Right.
kind of say, and you can also like bring maybe not the color palette, but you can bring a scalable thing without
Yeah.
Odin. Why? Like, when would you recommend to use it, and why not?
I would say whenever you're picking any tool for development and like what you're building out, is it going to take more time to build out the tools for development to speed you up later than it is to just get it done now? Is the decision making I would think about, right? If you're working on a large team project and this is finding ways for you to ease the load of everybody else with a little bit of development work, this is when I would pick that type of stuff. I think a big part of like being a developer in the industry is being part of a team, right? You're a team player, you're working with teams. And I feel like more of my time, granted, I work in a highly collaborative role doing like marketing / technical demos. So it might be a little different, but like a large part of my time is discussing with other people how we're going to go about things and then executing on those things. And so I think that's when you start looking at tools like this, right? Like your game may not have like an assigned color palette that you're worried about, right? But if you're working on a larger studio and you have an art director who has assigned the color palette, like this is a fail-safe way to lock it in. And so the little bit of extra dev work is well worth the time because it's going to save you from like reversing stuff in QA or changing color themes or going through art passes. So I think it's really about like evaluating what your pipeline's looking like and what you're building and deciding whether or not it's worth, like, if it's going to save you the time and give you the speed you want. There's a really good video I can share. We worked with a student school in Vancouver, and they won the Unity Award last year, actually, Momentum. And this Odin was like the backbone of their game development, and they were a team of 4. And we actually did a YouTube stream with them where they showed why they used it and like what they used it for. And their demo was way more impressive than mine. But they had been developing with it for 1.5 years. So they spent 1.5 years diving deep. So really it's about, with any tool, what's the outcome of this? What benefits am I getting? And if you're just like making up the benefits in your head and they're not actually paying off time-wise, then you're able to skip it. The feedback I've received from folks using this has been periodically, it just makes things faster and easier for us. So they use it. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, as you know, I don't do coding or
Yeah.
programming, and I'm teaching my students. We're on the art side only. So is Odin code driven?
It is code driven. So this is
it's not really useful then for my students, or
if your students are not going to be doing any C# scripting, like building stuff out, most likely not, because all of like the validator and the serializer just add extra features by default, which would be useful, but the inspector stuff that I just showed off would not be useful. So I guess it is fair to say that Odin is three things. It is inspector, serializer, validator. The validator for your students could be very useful, actually,
Right.
for troubleshooting. The serializer expands Unity's serialization. And I'd be the Odin team is actually here at Unite. So at the party tonight, I'd be happy to introduce you to Brian, and they could explain more about like why that's powerful and what it does. That's the one feature I haven't really toyed with a whole bunch, but I think those are the two that would be powerful. But the inspector enhancement stuff, unless you have somebody writing code, you're not going to see a lot of those enhancements come through.
so do you have any suggestions for, because I use a lot of the pre-done things like Playground or whatever to let my students build games, because you can just drag and drop scripts, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for other?
Do you want to see a really cool Unity? Do
tools?
you want to see a really cool Unity tool? So we actually showed this on Twitch today, and this is a really good excuse to demo it again. But this is Unity Play. Has anybody put a game on Unity Play before? Cool. So it's a web. It started with us as just a place to host your games in WebGL, right, and publish. So we have a company with this called Struct, and Struct is amazing, and they built Unity Play Studio. So this would be a really great place for prototyping, ideas about how they can build things out. The one thing is like if they're creating external art assets, I haven't seen a lot of ways to build things in that yet. But you can actually start with like a new game project from one click, and all of your game objects are pre-configured. You can start prototyping, layering things out, and messing with terrain as well. So this is our starting default. And normally I use a little person, but then Kirk today showed me the alligator, and I will never use another character other than the alligator from here on out. So we literally just go to this plus for my assets, and we can search through all of these provided assets. So the alligator is a pre-set up character, and notice his controller button is already clicked. That means he's already playable as a character. So let me just pull back here. Look how cute this dude is. All right, we're gonna hit play. So I already have like a third person runner with a rigged and animated alligator and footprints. And what's his idle animation? We got a, yeah, hey buddy. Yes. All right, cool. So that was already getting a character in, rigged, and playing. And now if we wanted to like change some of the things, like we can mess with the environment. So as an example, let's do some raising and lowering of terrain. So I'm gonna raise all of this terrain up. I'm not an artist, but I'm scrubbing the ground. Okay. So all of this is built here. And then what we can actually do if we jump to like our style. So this is just gonna set us in like a desert full of burbs. Maybe a little more dark. Now we're on a scary planet. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit, but I'm gonna leave the Halloween vibes going. And then we can kind of play with some of the other pieces. So here's my water button. Yeah, let's play with some. All right, so let's choose a water. So let's do like a darker water shader, and let's raise the water height. So now we're on a scary island. And the only thing that exists on scary islands in my brain is dinosaurs. So we're gonna throw some dinosaurs in here. You've got to have a T-Rex if there's dinos, that's law. And then the whole mission objective, this has a little trophy. So the trophy means that's a mission objective. So the goal now is to collect the egg to win the game. So we can hit play. We are Allie the alligator on a terrifying dinosaur island. I don't think they're armed to attack. Okay, yeah, they're being friendly. What about this? What about this, buddy? You scary? No, okay. So we run over, and then if we grab this, we win. So we can go back to editing, play again. So this is like, if you want like an absolute no-code solution where they can rapidly prototype and build stuff out and create experiences, I would really recommend playing with this. It's still in development. We're always adding and expanding features. But the other cool thing about it is you can start setting up like quest systems. Also, you can actually make these guys attack. So if we go here, we go to my behaviors. So right now their behavior is like set to an AI. But let's just do attack. Always finds and attacks enemies. And since it's an NPC, I am its enemy. So theoretically, I should be being hunted right now. If I understand how, oh no! So then he'll like have an aggro radius. There's not a lot of ground for him to move on, so he's really upset about that. But now that we've tested that, we can go back to our terrain and expand out, right? So we need to build more of an island. And then the fun part, I can literally hit publish. We'll call this Allie's Dinosaur Rally. I made this game in 4 minutes. And then I hit publish, and now I can share this out for prototyping and testing with anybody. Like I can literally hit the share button, and then people will go straight to that link. And there's my game. Look how cute he is. And then it'll load us right into a playable version of the game on Struct. So kind of fun, kind of cool. So that might be another tool to look at, like no code. Exactly. Like, hey, you want to get like start getting into this world, get comfortable moving around in 3D, building stuff. I also think tools like this are really, really nice for like gameplay design and prototyping, like finding the fun of what you're trying to do right away. What also is really cool about this, oh look, there's an exporter. So once they've built out all this stuff and it's working, it's still being developed, but they can actually add this to their project and import their project from Play into Unity and continue development forward. So yeah, and you just download and install it here. There's a how to get started instructions. It'll set up your player account. That does require a Unity ID, but that might be another route of like, hey, we're going to play test in this rapid creation tool, test, experiment, play, find what's really great, throw it into Unity, and we'll just keep deving. So that might be another good option for you too. Also, you should like email us and tell us like, hey, what other student assets would be valuable for your students. Because then I can tell that to the product team and they can try to start having those conversations. So cool. We still have about 10-ish minutes. Any questions?
Email where?
Huh?
Where do you email?
Oh, that's a great idea. Email me, actually. Here. That's probably your best bet. Let me get the thing right and I'll full screen it. Yeah, send me an email. And then I'll forward it along to the right people. You're also never bothering me. So like as students, if you have questions, comments, concerns, you made a game and you just want somebody to play it, please send it to me. That's the best part of my job is playing student games. We do showcases on Twitch once a quarter, usually, where we play student games. Really cool story. We did one last week. We played 7 games. And the 7th game was a game called Roomba Rumble. Super fun game. They actually emailed us when we were flying into Spain that like a publisher saw it and reached out to them to talk about the game after because they were like, oh, this is so fun. And like, yeah, we would love to play your games. My team thrives on that. It's also like for us really powerful to like have conversations with you about like what was hard to do, what was easy to do, what you ran into. Because again, you all are game developers. So I can take that to our internal product teams and say, these are issues that our customers, our users are having, and we can start using that to develop forward better. Couple things to tell you about. They announced this today, so I can now talk about it. So we're partnering with Crazy Games. We're doing a Crazy Unity Game Jam, or a Crazy Web Game Jam is the official name. The theme will be announced on November 1st. It's a week-long game jam. The goal is to leverage Unity 6 web runtime support. So, build a WebGL game or any web game. And you can sign up early for the web development tips, tricks, best practices. We're going to be doing a Twitch live stream supporting this, showing you how to register and play. We're going to be jamming along, which is going to be really fun. And it's a free jam to enter. I don't know what the prizes are, but I've heard there's prizes too. So you should totally do it. The best way to learn to make games is just to go make games. So, and game jams are really great ways to test that. And then this final QR code, I think, takes you to like my Twitter and my LinkedIn. So if you want to like connect on LinkedIn, have questions, people you want to meet, like, please use me as a resource. I'd happy to do it. Yes.